You know, that feeling. Like you're sitting in a lecture, maybe trying really hard to take good notes. You're nodding along, but there's this little voice kind of asking, is any of this actually sticking? Am I really getting it? Or am I just, physically here? We've all had that doubt, wondering if the hours spent really turned into actual understanding. So what if the whole way we measure learning? What if this has just been wrong all along? Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating, maybe revolutionary concept called Brainpage hours. It comes from the Taxshila Model of learnography. And it suggests it's not about just being present. It's about what your brain is actively doing. Our mission, then, for this deep dive is to unpack how this idea could, well, completely redefine what subject mastery even means. How it shifts the focus hard away from just passive listening towards really active engagement. And how it offers a pathway, backed by neuroscience, to genuine knowledge transfer. We'll look at what Brainpage hours are, how they supposedly work, and crucially, what they could mean for you, for your own learning.
Now, our source for this is a pretty recent research piece, Brainpage Hours, Redefining Subject Mastery in Education, by Shiva Narayan Taxshila Page. It just came out, August 2025, and it really does propose a major shift in thinking. Okay, so let's start with the usual way of thinking. For ages, education has measured progress by teaching hours, right? Classroom time, attendance, number of lectures delivered. We're sort of conditioned to think more class time means more learning. But this Taxshila model really pushes back on that idea.
It does. And what's really interesting, I think, is how that traditional view counts the time your body is in the seat, not necessarily the time your brain is switched on and working. It's a fundamental distinction that this model really hammers home. The old way has this built-in flaw. Just being there doesn't mean you're actually transferring knowledge or retaining it or, importantly, able to use it later. Like the research says, you could sit passively for 6 hours. It's like going to the gym but just watching other people work out.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, okay, if just sitting there isn't cutting it, what is the answer according to this model? And that brings us to this idea of the Brainpage hour. Tell us about that. It's a new unit of learning.
Exactly. A new unit. It's defined as the time when a learner's brain is actively, and this is the key part, constructing and rehearsing knowledge transfer. And they use the specific term, motorized engagement.
Motorized engagement.
Yeah.
Okay, what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, it means getting your brain, and often your body, in a sense, moving with the material. We're talking concrete actions. Things like really reading with focus, not just scanning. Writing notes to synthesize, not just transcribe, visualizing complex ideas, mapping out connections, actively solving problems related to the subject, or trying to apply it to, new situations.
Okay, so real active processing.
Precisely. And the goal of all this activity is to build what the model calls brain page maps and modules. You can think of them as like the neural blueprints for that knowledge. They live in your brain's memory.
Ah, okay.
And they're what you access when you need to solve something or perform a task using that knowledge. So this whole reframing puts the learner, not the teacher, right at the center of transferring knowledge. It tries to align how schools work with, neuroscience and the biology of how we actually learn.
Right. So for anyone listening, what this really means is, well, the effort you put into actively wrestling with the material is way more important than just the hours on the timetable. The research draws a really sharp contrast, doesn't it, between passively listening in a lecture, where maybe you're there, but the knowledge isn't really becoming yours, and the active construction that happens during these Brainpage hours.
Absolutely. Mastery, in this view, hinges entirely on accumulating that active time. Time spent rehearsing knowledge, making that connection from the book or the lesson into your brain, that book-to-brain transfer, as they call it.
And that explains something we've all seen, right?
Yeah.
Two people can be in the exact same class, but come out with totally different levels of understanding.
Exactly. Their number of accumulated brain page hours is different. It's not just about attendance. It's about active engagement time. And this isn't just a nice idea. It's rooted in concepts from motor science, neural engagement, and the science of how knowledge actually transfers.
So it's giving structure to something that felt a bit abstract before.
Yes, it provides a measurable structure. It makes learning mastery feel more tangible, a bit like, the hours a pilot needs for flight certification or practice hours for musicians or athletes. And the Taxshila model actually puts a number on it. It estimates roughly 15,000 brain page hours are needed for subject mastery, all the way from kindergarten up to a master's degree.
Wow, 15,000. That sounds like a huge number. Is that meant to be daunting? Or
Well, it's a big number, yeah, but it's broken down. It's not all at once. The model suggests it's about 5,000 hours for what they term pre-Taxshila, think K, through primary grades. Then another 5,000 for the Taxshila core, which is like secondary school and core subjects. And then a final 5,000 for post-Taxshila, covering bachelor's and master's levels.
okay, that breaks it down.
Yeah, and if you think about a typical student maybe juggling, say, 5 subjects at a time,
Right.
then each subject needs around 1,000 of these active Brainpage hours to reach real proficiency at that level.
Okay, 1,000 per subject makes it feel a bit more manageable. And the analogy holds up, doesn't it? A pianist doesn't get fluent just by listening to music. They need hours of rehearsal.
Exactly.
An athlete needs training. A coder needs coding practice.
Mm-hmm.
So these Brainpage hours are like the practice reps for academic skills. The research puts it quite plainly. Practice defines skill in other areas, and Brainpage hours define subject mastery in learning. So, okay, we need these active hours, but how do we make sure that active time is, well, effective? Is it just about putting in the time, or is there more to it? The model talks about these 7 dimensions of knowledge transfer, the KT dimensions. How do they fit in?
Right. The KT dimensions are basically about how you engage during those Brainpage hours. The idea is that processing knowledge through these specific dimensions makes your active time much more productive. It accelerates the learning.
Okay, so what are they? Can you give us a quick sense?
Sure. So there's the definition spectrum that's about really understanding a concept from multiple angles, not just one simple definition. Then the function matrix, thinking about how something actually works in different situations.
Okay.
Block solver is about actively tackling things you find confusing or difficult, identifying those roadblocks.
Makes sense.
Hippocampus, that uses the idea of the hippocampus, your brain's navigation system, to link new stuff to what you already know, your existing mental maps. Module Builder focuses on breaking down complex info into smaller, connected chunks, like building blocks.
Right.
Task Formator is about turning knowledge into action, how you'd actually use it to do something or solve a problem. And the last one is Dark Knowledge. That's about digging into the assumptions or biases you might have that you're not even aware of, the unknown unknowns that can block real understanding. Engaging through these dimensions, the model argues, really boosts the power of each Brainpage hour.
That adds another layer. It's not just that you're active, but how you're active. So, stepping back, what does all this mean for, say, classrooms, for teachers, and especially for learners? It sounds like a pretty fundamental shift.
Oh, it's huge. For learners, it's incredibly empowering. When the focus is on Brainpage hours, you shift from being just a passive receiver to an active participant. It ties into this idea in the Taxshila model called small teachers, where every learner is kind of expected to articulate, question, maybe even explain things to others. It builds responsibility, autonomy.
I like that, small teachers. So the learner takes more ownership, and the teacher's role must change quite dramatically too.
Absolutely. The teacher becomes less of a lecturer, more of a facilitator, a moderator, someone who designs the learning environment to help students accumulate those productive Brainpage hours. Classrooms themselves would need to change, right? From places of passive listening to hubs of active engagement, maybe collaboration.
Yeah, you can picture that.
And for schools and institutions, it implies needing to rethink metrics, moving beyond just grades or attendance, maybe, and restructuring curriculum to really focus on depth, on mastery built through active hours, rather than just trying to cover a huge breadth of topics superficially. Ultimately, the goal is that by building these habits of active processing via Brainpage hours, learners are better set up for, lifelong learning and adapting in a world that changes so fast.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. The core message here seems to be that these Brainpage hours, this active, engaged learning time, are the real currency of learning and getting good at a subject. It moves us way beyond just counting time spent in a chair. It's all about that active processing, constructing knowledge, making it stick. So for everyone listening, as you think about your own learning, maybe it's for your job or picking up a new skill or formal studies, how could you start applying this idea? How can you make sure the time you dedicate to learning is genuinely active? That you're consciously building those neural blueprints.
It leads to a pretty interesting final thought, doesn't it? Imagine a world, or even just your own approach, where learning isn't measured just by the clock, but by the actual neural pathways you've actively constructed. What kind of learner could you become if every hour was intentionally focused on building that deep, usable mastery?